We're back. It's the movie review, man. It's Jeff.
Hello. It's Claude Fates here. How's everybody doing?
So today, Claude and I decided we were talking about a film too much that we had to capture it and share the conversation, because that's what we do. We always talk about film, and we don't want to waste a single moment, especially for things that we're passionate about. And by passion, of course, that can mean passionate like, man, that was great. And also, of course, it could mean passion like, I can't believe that Claude asked me to watch this film. And so, Claude, what is this film?
Okay, I think it's passionate that it was a good recommendation.
No, I mean, tell them what the film is.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, the film takes place at a private elite school and is about a young girl by the name of Selah Summers, who's the head of the most popular or the most influential faction. There are 5 factions, of students. Each of them sort of running an underground, vice services for students. And to make a long story short, Selah is at the last semester until she graduates, and she's looking for someone to take over her role as the leader of her group, which are known as the Spades. All right. And so she takes a freshman under her wing, and it becomes sort. She basically she takes a freshman under her wing, starts grooming the freshman, and the freshman figures out she takes to becoming a very good understudy of her. And so this is how the drama begins building up, because there's, Selah, she treasures this position because of the control she has over her school, but she puts on such a strong, persona. She's dealing with, just being a powerful person at the school and wanting to have sort of control of her life. And she's also, in a way, threatened, like with a lot of, certain movie setups, she becomes eventually threatened by the person who she's her quote unquote pupil, who can possibly outshine her. Yeah. So yeah. So I mean that's I guess a little bit of a word.
That's the setup.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the setup. It's a Amazon Prime original. So again, for everybody who's staying at home and binge watching product, this just got released during the old COVID quarantine. So there was a lot of time for folks to be able to watch films like this. And so Claude recommended it, and what I had this was an example. It was like the opposite of a recent review where I was watching something. When it completed the first act, I paused and said, hey, I'm enjoying this thing. This one, I couldn't figure out when the first act ended, and I paused to send Claude a message just saying, gosh, I'm having a hard time watching this thing. And I even wrote notes to myself trying to figure out why, because there's a lot of reasons for me to want to like this film. Jerome is in this from When They See Us. Jerome is the young actor who, in the movie When They See Us, you have someone playing the young version of the 5 young boys who were falsely accused in New York for wilding. And then they had a grown actor playing the grown version of them. But Jerome played both the young teenage boy and the grown boy. He totally crushed that performance. So you had the change in age, you had the traumatic experience he went through. Here's this, and it's a significant, historical event that he went through. And then when I was watching this, one of my reactions was kind of just like, wow, how unsubstantial this subject matter is. Maybe that's one thing. I was just like, having seen him in that, watching him in the vagaries of rich kids at a private school, going through the challenges of how the 5 different cliques who, as you mentioned earlier, they're the vices cliques. They're the 5 bad behaving cliques. It's not even, the socialites versus the jocks versus the geeks versus the band members. They make clear distinctions about that Selah was the lead of the cheerleading group, and I guess all the cheerleaders are on her team. That's probably true because she's a domineering type character. But being a cheerleader or being a really smart kid had nothing to do with this breakout. And not only that, I didn't even understand what was the breakout, because I was going to get angry if the breakout was Selah and the Spades. Is like, give me a second. Spades, she's black. Spades, hold on, I need a minute. Is it because she's black? No, there was another black group. At least there was another leader of one of the 5 groups who was black. And then there were 3 other groups, and they all had names that, were based off of the name of the leader. That, there was the Tom Toms, because the guy's name was Thomas Tom. And then there were the Bobbies, because the girl's name was Bobby. So then I'm back to Selah and the Spades. Why are they Spades? So I didn't want to know that, but the film didn't explain where their names came from. They were all cliques, social cliques, who had their role, like you said, in vices. And the Spades, wait for it, the black girl-led, black sidekick-led group, the Spades, what did they do? What did they provide? That's right, they provided the drugs. They went into the tough part of town in Philly. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's the real name in Philly, the name they use. They gave a name.
Yeah, Fishtown.
Fishtown. I went to Fishtown. Maybe Fishtown is. I'm not from Philly. Maybe Fishtown is where you go to get drugs, Philly folks. But I just kept thinking how much I didn't care and how hard to read. Hard to read. If it was a book, this would be an example of a hard read. I just kept waiting for him, like, please move forward. I've watched lots of teenage movies, and I tried to judge myself. I said, well, Jeff, you watched all these teenage movies and it was full of white people and you like those. How come you can't like this? Okay. And I also watched a lot of them with black people and I like those too. So that's not it. I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't. The sexual tension, and there was, we don't do spoilers on this, so how can I say this in a non-spoiler way? Are you going to get his sexual attention? Did I spoil it? I apologize.
Well, I thought we had some. I think we gave out some spoilers last time, didn't we? Okay, but yeah. Okay. So
I mean, the tension is like, because sexual tension is good, right? Like, oh, will they or won't they? Will they or won't they? Will they or won't they? But even that, I was kind of like, even if they do, will they? Won't they? Even if they do.
Wow. Okay.
Even if they do, I don't care.
Okay.
So, I don't know. Talk to me. I mean, so it was critically acclaimed, which is why you referred it. But what is your critique of the film?
Well, yeah, no, I didn't even read about the critical acclaim. I mean, one of the reasons I picked it, number 1, was a recent movie that came out. Number 2, was a recent movie with people of color that came out. I saw the trailer. The trailer looked like it could be something that was intriguing.
Yes.
Now, take the title again, Selah and the Spades, and there are a couple of things. Now, not seeing the trailer at all, Selah and the Spades, it sounds, 2 things come to mind. I keep thinking that maybe Selah and the Spades would be a name of either like an all-girl band that does a battle of the bands against Josie and the Pussycats and a
sure.
Archie comic book. All right, so that comes to mind. Or it would be, I sort of also saw it in a way as probably like a 1970s all-girl gang selling the Spades, and I could, imagine hearing a trailer,
right.
Watch out, Switchblade Sisters. Here comes Selah and the Spades,
Right.
These hot mamas are gonna take over the town or whatever. So the title I thought was sort of interesting because it was just sort of like, okay, it just sort of stuck out for that reason, just sight unseen. But going into the movie itself, I'm going to tell you, the first time I saw it, I had a sense that something really interesting was happening. The thing is, I saw the elements there. And I'll tell you the truth, the first viewing, I wasn't that crazy about it, but I was intrigued by it to see it a second time. Mm-hmm. Now, the only movie upon first viewing that this reminded me of, it reminded me of Ray Johnson's movie Brick, which was basically, you have something that is taking place at a high school. In the case of Brick, you sort of had a neo-noir that was mixed in with sort of like a high school drama. And he goes all out in terms of creating sort of like a film noir thing. He hits all the tropes, in a masterful, way. I saw this in terms of a similar vein, but not necessarily following, it had noir elements, but it actually followed more of sort of like a gangster story. But it's not the gangster like we would see like in the 1990s. It's not hip hop gangster. It's not Menace to Society. It is sort of like the Hollywood version of movie gangsters, when they were coming up with sort of like these interesting dynamics that, really weren't, not necessarily like down to earth. So, they're more, again, sort of like a combination of again, sort of like in a gateway, again, sort of like movie gangster movies tied in with elements of like Mean Girls and a bunch of different high school movies. And I would even say, honestly, the setup between her and the young girl that she recruits, Selah is the leader of the Spades, and the girl that she recruits is Paloma. It has an All About Eve, which again is a lot of nods to classic sort of Hollywood. So you got the Hollywood gangster. You have All About Eve. You also have, in a way, just elements of just little noir stuff basically set up. But this whole idea of the different rackets and everything is basically, honestly, like a gangster. It's a setup like a gangster movie. Yeah, but again, it's not there. You're not going to see people getting shoot or nothing. But it is about power dynamics at a period in people's lives when the world is sort of trying to tell you who you're supposed to be, and you want to sort of have a certain control in terms of who you are.
Sure. Organized crime, melodrama, right? Where it's a lot more dialogue about who, the power structure and who's going to succeed who, and how the organizations get along with each other. Which it's still, like you said, it's not. They aren't actually La Cosa Nostra, but there was still crimes. It was in fact organized. It was also conspiratorial, where there was rivaling factions both working together and apart, and there was violence. Mm-hmm. There was violence and the threat of violence. There was an underlying threat of violence that was a theme that carried on the entire the entire movie. It's just like I just kept waiting for it and thinking, gosh, I sure hope it comes soon, and I hope when it finally arrives that I care. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was a hard read, to use book terminology. If you had a book where you said this is a hard read and you keep plowing through and you're like, yeah, well, I heard it's good and the story's going to clean up at the end. It definitely, I see the gangster elements. I see a little Shakespearean. Again, it had the hint at Shakespearean, like somehow this was going to be, it was somehow going to be kind of a little Shakespearean in a sense of, the leader, Selah, is trying to retire, and she's trying to, again, pass down to her successor, who is, quiet type, but, over time starts to show her ambition, and what is their relationship between the two of them, she's, and the director, who is also the writer, gets quite literal in the things you talk about. Selah does a talk to the camera monologue about everyone wants to control the bodies of 17-year-old girls. That was pretty good, pretty powerful, but literal to your point. I mean, she actually said that we're going through a time where everybody's trying to control our bodies. And then sexual tension. Is there something going on between these two? Well, they just actually freaking talk about it. Hi, are you interested in sex? No, I'm not quite interested in sex. Look directly into camera. I mean, they didn't look directly, but I mean, they just straight up said it. And then,
Yeah.
so then you're sitting the whole time saying, oh, will they or won't they, will they or won't they? And I'm really like, ugh. First, I was creeped out by it. And I don't know why, because obviously we've seen plenty of films of folks like that in that age group. But was it creeped out? I don't know. I just didn't like it. I was just like, kiss and get over it with it, or don't kiss, or I really want to be you so badly. It just seems like it's an obsession of power, though, because I want to have your power. I want to be you. And then they went ahead and actually said that line. It's the difference between whether you want to be someone or love someone. That's not a quote, but she went ahead. Paloma actually said that. Yeah. I don't know. I think I'm pretty patient. I mean, I'm no young whippersnapper. I'm getting old. Maybe that's making me impatient. I've watched a lot of film. I've seen a whole lot of plus or minus. I love a lot of terrible films, technically terrible films that I love. And then I hate a lot of technically excellently pulled together film, but they don't mean nothing to me. Because I didn't like what they were doing, what they're saying. This one was just, I wished it would end. And even when it came to the very, very end, because you resaw it, right? The very, very, very end, right? Where they didn't do it. They didn't do the thing. They got all the way to the end, and they're like, okay, if it's a tragedy, well, then something tragic must occur. That's what a tragedy means. You have to go all the way to the tragedy. Mm-hmm. Romeo and Juliet, doggone it. He was faking that he was dead. She's like, oh, you're dead? Well, then I'm going to kill myself. And he's like, you dummy. It was fake poison. Now my heart's broken, so I'll kill myself. We'll both be dead. Mm-hmm. That's a tragedy. Uh-huh. This movie was like Romeo and Juliet, where they're like, I got scared. I didn't drink the poison. I'm just sitting here waiting. I'm just sitting here waiting.
I don't think it needed to actually have a body count. I think that the tragedy was, to me, just more a tragedy of her character, and the whole tragedy is that, despite, she had trouble dealing with the fact that she really did not have a lot of power in her life. And she, and as much of, and all the stuff that she sort of put on, eventually she became a hypocrite. It's funny you mentioned poison, because she did put the lemon drops in old girl's drink.
Yes.
And I was sort of glad that the girl, number one, didn't die, and that, but it was this big, there was definitely a big shattering of this illusion that this girl, again, this is solar spoiler, was all that and everything. I thought the ending was fine. I did not want to see people dying at the end. And the reason, I guess, I guess I didn't need all that to happen. I think that whatever tension was built up, the resolution was I was fine with the fact that eventually she wasn't able to control the narrative, put out this version of the story, and maintain control. Right. Her whole, eventually she's a very intelligent, resourceful fraud. So it's not, it's not at all who she is. And, she had, in order for her life to continue, she sort of needs to realize that she needs to control her own stuff, and that she's not, to a certain degree, she's not all that she's capable of doing.
You don't have to be perfect all the time, which also they said out loud in the movie. You're supposed to show it, not say it.
Usually I would say that, but you know what? It was, going back to some of the stuff you were saying in terms of addressing certain things, the whole her discussing or saying that she was, in essence, basically saying that she was asexual. So I sort of did not, not that she necessarily said it in those words, but in terms of when they were talking about dating, I think that sort of that highlighted, just number one, that as much as she was a big boss in the school, she wasn't really a reliable person.
Yeah,
because
she
some of
form relationships.
Her the foundations of who she was were one way or another, compromised, or she went against them. And
that's right. And they pointed out how she couldn't form relationships. So folks wondered if she would get with her sidekick, her number one, Max. But then we come to find out, no, she could never get with Max, to your point, because she's unreliable, because there's a character flaw, right? Part of her trying to be all powerful and all the rest is masking the fact that she doesn't, she'll have to get with Max, but she's not getting with anybody.
At least she says she's not. There's definitely attraction between her and this young girl, this young protege.
Yeah.
But we don't necessarily know. It's not put there, but it's one of those things that, there's certain, I would say, sort of overtones. So I'm not going to say that they were,
right.
hooking.
But back to your point about,
I don't even think she could even get with somebody like Maxie, because in a way, like even the whole name Maxie. Okay, Max is supposed to be sort of like a very strong name, Maximum. Maxie is the name of the best friend who's not going to get any.
Yeah, you're already Max, and then we reduce it by making you Maxie.
Yeah, Maxie. That's
like being tough or a toughie.
Yeah, no, it's not. The thing is that if you have a team, one person is Selah, the other one's Maxie, you're automatically going to know that Selah is the boss, because Maxie, it's just if somebody says I'm going to fight against Max, okay, that's a problem. Someone says you're going to fight against Maxie, you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to jump in on this.
I'm gonna beat him up. He's Max-ish.
He sounds
already maxed. You don't put anything after that. It says Max, as in maximum. You don't Max E, Maxito, if it were Spanish.
But even Maxie, honestly, that sounds like serious. That sounds like a gay friend they would have in Sex in the City. Oh, let's go ahead, apple teenies with Maxie.
With Maxie, and when you get there, it's not a girl.
And then you think of, I don't mean to sound bad, I don't know the gender bias, but then you think of Maxie Pad. I'm sorry, the Maxie thing took some of his firepower away, and I sort of saw it, because he cared for Selah. Selah was his friend. He was very respectful of her. But again, in a dynamic like this, because he was interested in another girl, then it was, it was.
And back to your point. Back to your point, because she's interested in another girl, and Selah can't admit any flaws, or that she might lose someone who everyone thought might be, a good mate for her, because he's, he helps her in her organized crime. He's loyal to her all the time. Why aren't they together? And since they're not together, well, let's just pretend that you're not interested in anyone then, Selah. That's how you do. That's how you keep control. You don't seem to have control over anything else going on in the world. So just pretend, just say to your protege that the life that I live, which again, this is how this story plays out, to your point. It's a gangster story in high school, right? And I'm getting ready to find out who I'm going to pass down my power to. So we're getting some kind of royalty type storyline going on here. And in her mind, she's just going to make it up and say, well, yeah, my excuse for why I'm not with Maxie or anyone else, male or female, right? The issue is that you've got problems with yourself. You don't have control. You're growing, you're changing. You don't have as much control as you think, but you want to be total control of this group, the Spades, and you don't want to show any cracks in your armor, and you're the all-powerful person. So just say that you don't have any interest in anybody. That's not necessarily the truth, is the point, right? That she needs to, grow up, right, and recognize the flaws that she has, and her inability to get Maxie or anybody else for that matter in a relationship. They didn't really imply that she ever went to the prom with somebody, right? This is senior year.
This is senior year, but they said junior, senior year. We knew that there was another person that was a protege of hers a couple of years earlier. So okay. Well, there are a couple of things I want. We hit on a couple of things, and I'm not gonna make a pitch in terms of saying why you should like the story. I'm gonna make, I'm basically gonna highlight, why, I ended up thinking that the director, her name is Tyrisha Poe, is hopefully will be, like a name to be reckoned with. I think this was actually, I think of, I think it was like, just intelligently made. I was also intrigued because it takes place in a like a private school, and so the whole aspect of just people who are in a private school, how they sort of navigate around that situation.
Sure.
And so this just sort of in this environment, it's not necessarily, take it, I'm not saying that private schools are like this, but there's a certain amount of sheltering that's there because you have resources and things at your disposal. So there, they can refer to going to Fishtown, but it's not going to be like they're walking home and, you hear the clack clack of gunshots. They say, oh, someone just used a 38. Oh no, someone used a 485 automatic. All the stuff that we've seen before.
Right. They know how to get there.
This is about telling. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was saying they know how to get there, but they're not living in that life.
No, they're not living in that life, and there's and the story is not not about that life. It is sort of like again, like Hollywood. It's sort of like again, old-fashioned Hollywood style gangster. You have you have all the the ingredients are sort of there in the meeting. The factions, and the factions have different names. The C is run by Tarot. The Skins is gambling, which is by Amber. The Bobbies, which does the illegal rave parties. You get the Prefects, which sort of runs cover for the keeps the administration in the blind. And then again, and my wife pointed out, just like you did, whether they have one of the black groups running or Selah running, okay, the booze, pills, vice, and stuff. So essentially, yeah. Not drug dealing to get people on crystal meth or nothing like that, but stuff that private kids would do, something to help them study, something to get their party on. But again, they're still drug dealers. So that gets a little my brothers for that.
Yeah, they're still drug dealers, and they still go to Fishtown to get the drugs. So yeah. I'm not from Philly. I have to look it up. But unless Fishtown happens to be an all-white neighborhood in upper middle class or rich Philadelphia, it's the same problem.
Exactly. No, I mean that's you're right. That's a problem. But it has like all the So here are sort of the things I sort of recognize from some of like the gangster movies. They have a new principal who's trying to make a name for himself, and so they're having a discussion that the new principal is here, and they have to be like extra careful, extra resourceful, because then they will lose the prom or whatever. The prom.
Which is the new.
Okay,
the new sheriff in town.
The new sheriff the whole sheriff in town, and so
the new G-man.
The principal is meeting with this new student, and things are sort of left ambiguous. The ingredients are there, but it's not necessarily locking you in. Right. We have this freshman who's, for some reason, is given the assignment of shadowing Selah, and the principal and her principal and Paloma are talking, and he's basically saying, oh yeah, you're here. How are you doing? Your grades are great. We're out. I'm an outsider just like you, and yeah, you're here on scholarship and everything, and then basically giving her the advice to go out and be social. And so then she's given Selah to be the student that she's going to shadow, and she's a photographer. So photographer, these stories usually have a photographer breaking into the syndicate or undercover person going undercover. And
yeah, very good.
And so he is sort of follow her. So why, she could be given her that assignment because she's quote unquote one of the best students. But the other thing is she possibly there to get, some information? It's
infiltrate.
It's very ambiguous. And then, like some of these stories, the person who quote unquote, and I'm not saying she's infiltrating, but she gets accept, you know, she's accepted. Her and Maxie show her the operation, and she takes to it, and you know, and she becomes, you know, in a way, you know, a freshman, and you're having the seniors showing you everything.
Correct.
And saying we want you to take control of this. This is just like, you know, to a certain degree, just sort of like some type of you know, like, you know, it's paradise. It's a chance of a lifetime.
Yes.
And
which would have been cool. But do you
yeah.
feel like that went somewhere? That only implied that it might go somewhere, but it didn't.
Well, what went somewhere? The story or the
no, these elements you're talking about, the elements of her, the you know, who's going to win her over? The headmaster who says you're just like me, new to this place, or will she be won over by Selah? And it's a struggle between the two. Who will capture the soul of the young innocent? The gangster or the new sheriff in town? We never got that struggle.
Yeah, I wasn't. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't gonna. Yeah, I wasn't like sort of, because usually that's what happens. Are you gonna become the villain, or are you going to to be the hero? And like I said, it didn't. It was very. I think it was very ambiguous. It sort of placed the bread seeds there, but it did not lock her. It did not lock her in.
Nor did it actually build with the tension between the two. I'm hearing what you're saying as far as putting those crumbs out there, but nothing became of that. You know, they had Jesse Williams, a very nice actor from Grey's Anatomy, playing the headmaster. They show him always 3 steps behind the 5 factions as they do their activities. They show them do one prank, I guess their annual prank or something, where they put lighted colored candles on the stairwell, blocking anyone walking in, but it's artistic looking and beautiful and some type of ritual. I didn't get anything else out of that though, other than, oh, it's a senior prank. They pulled that off again. And it was colorful, so it was visually appealing to the audience. But beyond that, I was like, what else is there to it? And what I got out of that was there wasn't anything else to it. And so then maybe this would be a film full of visually appealing things. I mean, they did show the kids playing in the woods. They would run off to the woods to have their secret council meeting of the 5 tribes, the 5 factions. And sorry, they literally called themselves factions. I don't like that.
Okay.
I don't like that they call themselves factions.
Okay.
That's being too literal. But still, they literally called themselves factions or some noun just like that, and they kept using the noun. Well, we factions are going to meet to factionally faction. Did I say we were factions? Did I mention that?
Okay, they weren't as bad. You're making it sound like the Smurfs or something, but it's not. No, I didn't.
Smurfity Smurf, factiony, fact.
We factions are factionally faction. So they may try to use bigger words to say certain things. I wasn't necessarily offended by that. But
they should have their own language, just like all gangsters do. Right? What? The writer for The Wire, even though he knew he was on television, the writer of The Wire used to talk about how he would make up words, and he knew he was making them up. They just sounded good. Right? Yeah, the way the cops talked, they said, "Oh, I'm going to get the jib." And you're going to get a jib, yeah, and I'm going to grab the jab. You're going to grab the jab, I'm grabbing the jab, and go over there and get the lup, and bring the lup on in here. And he made those things totally up, but he picked really good ones because he's a nice writer. They sounded good, but they weren't real Boston police nor real Boston gangster language. He just made them up. Yeah, okay. So how come teenagers, because teenagers definitely make up slang. I'm just thinking there were just a lot of teenage movies we saw about teenagers getting in trouble, teenagers doing more than they should, teenagers coming of age, teenagers trying drugs for the first time, trying sex for the first time. This film had neither of those things. It wasn't first time anything. They were always doing it. The only things interesting was their little note passing. They would put money and drugs in a little fold 4 times notes that they would pass out. Even that was not even some kind of sophisticated process of note passing. Again, they enjoyed the woods and the grounds around their facility. They would go out and run out to the woods to have the secret meetings. They'd go out there so they could smoke weed and get high. I would have preferred On Golden Pond and spent a lot of time showing me the beauty of the grounds. So the seasons change and show how nice the leaves were. Show the lake and how beautiful the lake was. I saw them sitting on a rock smoking weed in the woods. I saw them running after her with the flashlight while she's high, and there's a sense of danger and action, but not a sense of cinematographic. Almost, I see how I said that. Factions. Cinematographic image. It wasn't beautiful or amazing or horrific or scary. I mean, perhaps that's what the director was trying to capture, that we had the beauty of them in the woods when they were free and smoking weed, and free when they found a free place, and free when they found a place to do their own prom. And now the danger of running through the woods, and something tragic's going to happen. And I'm like, please let something tragic happen, because I want to know what this movie is. And so if something tragic happens, well, then it'll be a tragedy, finally. And if somebody gets busy, then it'll be a love story, finally. And if a teenager grows from one place to the next place, learns their lesson, then it will be a teenage coming of age story, finally. But did it really?
I think in terms of coming of age for I think it was definitely a coming of age. I think it was coming of age for all three characters. It was a coming of age, definitely for the freshmen.
What was Max's? Max's coming of age is they finally stood up to her and yelled back at Selah.
Well, he finally stood at her, and he finally got past this illusion that Selah was going to be somebody that was always, when he was out of his usefulness, she basically set him up to get beaten up in Fishtown.
Correct.
He came back and he realized the reality about her, and then actually managed to say, well, you know what, it has to be all about you, and not about other people. So he basically, the ass kicking he survived was his ticket to get away from her.
Yeah.
And he's able to be with Neri. So
right.
I think
and confront her in the end. And confront her in the end. What did you do?
He confront her probably 2/3 of the way. It's not a big emotional moment, but the thing is that once you realize someone is not there for you, then you have to, number one, get ready to move on. But he was still able, at least, not to let the mistake that happened with the
last time.
Yeah, it was the last time to happen, and to bring both of the girls from the edge,
Correct. And I wonder, also if this is for a different audience. I'm happy to accept that I'm too old too for it. I mean, you enjoyed it, and we're the same age.
I wonder
if a younger person would just be like, oh, like, man, it was all that. I mean, it was just so deep and profound, and don't you get it, Gramps? Mm-hmm. I'm not a Gramps, by the way. I just look like a Gramps during COVID. Mm-hmm. But yeah, maybe I'm perfectly happy to accept that might be the case. But I'd be surprised. It really seemed like it was a lot of. There was a lot of for melodrama. It was a lot of mellow.
I think it was a lot of drama too. I think it was a lot. I mean, not going to be like, again. I mean, in terms of what was set up in terms of this. There was a lot of tension as Paloma was sort of growing into her own and becoming somebody who was more trustworthy and moving. There was tension between her and Selah. There was definitely tension between Selah and her mom. I mean, it was really, the tension was just sort of brought up in a lot of different ways. You mentioned, Shakespeare, like, for example, okay, we have the, again, the Shakespearean tragedy element. Now, on the surface, looking at the first time, they have to deal with, they found out one of the people who betrayed them, and they have him tied up, surprisingly, in the theater.
Yes.
And this was a person that also had a relationship with one of the Bobbies, the girl who's in the theater department. So that brought into question, again, another person pulling the strings in terms of the stuff happening.
Right.
But then they mentioned right before then, it's like, okay, they mentioned, what play is going on, and you would say, okay, well, they're doing Macbeth, which sets it up. Now on the surface, you could say, okay, well, that just seems like he just tagged it on, and maybe it was like, oh, no big deal. They just said that to be clever because, but looking at the way they introduced it, why would they just mention it now? Because I could see Selah and her not necessarily being that concerned about what play. They're probably not going to go to play because, you know, she has taught, you know, Paloma, don't be around, you know, not to be around the Bobbies or not to be trusted. You then have the point where, okay, they confront the guy says what happens.
Right.
And Selah gets Paloma to cross the threshold. And so at that point, Paloma has blood on her hands, just like Lady Macbeth. All right. Now, somebody could say, okay, maybe there was something they did at the last moment, but then, you know, I definitely felt that this was actually very well planned, because after that moment, they're walking on the football field, and the football field, they're walking. And the way they set up the football field is that you have a very big light in the foreground, which is a lot, you know, just a very big bright light. And then you have the football, the field goal at the end. Mm-hmm. And you're thinking, okay, well, this, you know, she just finished beating somebody up. They're just walking away. When you come to find out the revelation that about what happened to the girl that was let go before.
Yes.
That was completely a well planned out. I mean, basically the shot of them on the field was a definite allusion to the whole. It seemed like it was an allusion to what happened to that other person.
Right. This was the point where Selah set up. You know, it was the failure of Selah's last protege, and this was the moment of the victory of Selah's next protege, because
victory yes. Victory the next yes.
If you're going to ascend to me, you gotta, you know, you're gonna be a gangster. You're gonna be a gangster like me, and so you're gonna have to beat this dude. They don't show what actually happened to him, other than he just got beat up by her physically. She did the beat down of the rat who stole the ledger.
And you know which again, just in terms of what they did, in terms of, because this is definitely a person who loves stories, because she has allusions that are from Shakespeare, she has allusions from the fables, from fairy tales, and in the case of that football field, the allusion to Icarus, which Selah brought up in terms of how, you know, she felt the girl was being ambitious and all this type of stuff. And in the football, you know, and then what happened with the football goal in terms of what happened with this girl, which is a big event, not just for her to let the girl go, but to, in essence, who Selah is as a person, you know. So that, I mean, that segment to me, I mean, that if it was like a master shot, what are one of the things that master shot, what are shots that say exactly what the movie is about? The football stadium, the football field is definitely one, you know.
Okay.
And going into, again, the illusions, fable, the whole fable of the scorpion and the frog, that's been done to death in a bunch of different movies.
Yes.
Done to death. But when she's at home with Gina Torres as her mother, and Gina Torres gives her the paring knife to cut the apple, and she's telling the story. It's because it's not just about power dynamics and nature, but you see that Selah does not, you know, what happens with the knife and everything, that Selah does not have that control. She may be the scorpion at the school, but who's the scorpion in her house?
Right.
You know, and again, you know, the table where she's cutting, you know, it's like there's the tables in a way is you see the power dynamic there. What do they use for like the power dynamic between Selah and the girl? A parallel could be made with the not a table, but the photography board. There's a clever play where the photography board, you know, where the girl had, you know, because she's a journalist at the school, has all these pictures. Yeah. And after she had met with the Bobbies, the girl that was in the theater, she put the picture on top of the board. Selah takes the picture and says, "Oh, why? You know, I didn't know that you were, you know, met with them." And is questioning her. You see that the element of doubt is there. She puts the picture on the table, Paloma's table. So Paloma picks up the picture, places it back on the top of the board. Then while they're still talking, Selah goes back to the board. She picks up another photo, places it on Paloma's table. And then Paloma picks up the picture, finds there's a spot on the board, and she tacks the picture on there. So this is about, again, you see two arenas where Selah feels like she's losing her power. And
right,
both of those tied into sort of like the
way she's going to get it back is she feels like she's in a situation she wasn't before. That she's going to have to tear down her rival. Yeah. It was all in there.
Yeah.
It was all in there.
Yeah, and there was a lot of different things, those tables, another production design, interesting thing, just as a sort of like a nod to, maybe it was a nod to the genres, I don't know. The chess where they
say that part again.
Have all the stuff about the racket.
Say that part again from the top.
You open the chest, the party favors. You have a gold light coming out of there.
Yes.
Which movie do you have a gold light coming out of the box? Okay.
Yes, like it's a refrigerator.
I was, So it was just like there were, certain things they definitely
did. They opened the party favor box, the lights lit up. What do you make of Paloma putting her thumb out of the picture of Maxie and Selah, and she's looking at one and then the other, and then the one and the other. So what is that? What is that?
That to me was that I'm just interpreting it, but it's to me it's like the equivalent of she loves you love me, you love me not. So it's like, is it going to be am I going to be supporting him or am I going to get rid of him? Am I going to support him? Am I going to get rid of him? And the final thing with her thumb is that this old boy has to go.
It's between me and Maxie, right? I'm gonna be in charge. So.
Yeah. So Maxie was sort of, because Maxie had confronted her, and it was interesting after she made the decision. Maxie was like, "Oh, he apologized," and then that's that whole situation happens where he stands them up.
What do you think about? So one of my early complaints I gave at the beginning was I felt like this was not that great of a performance opportunity for Jharrel Jerome in comparison. What do you think?
Maxie. It wasn't going to necessarily be like some some scenery chewing, but Maxie. Another thing that came to mind in Maxie, I kept thinking about Manny in Scarface, the number 2 guy, and that's what he was. He was the number 2 person. So it wasn't necessarily his time to shine. And just like Manny and Scarface, when he became romantically involved, Tony felt he was being sloppy. I don't think he was being sloppy. He actually had some good ideas, but he did some interesting things with the couple of interesting things he did with the role. Going back to Illusions, the scene when they are going to the first night party and they're bringing Paloma along, and they have the little mask on and everything.
Yes.
And this is her first time going to the party with the seniors. This sort of like, so he does an interesting thing where he's in front of the girls and he has a mask on, and he sort of does this thing where he's sort of like prancing like this. So I'm thinking it's like either, and I'm not saying exactly what it was, but it seemed like something like that. I think of like a horse or a carriage rider handling a horse, right?
Mm-hmm.
He just sort of does this thing, and he could be just sneaking around. But the little detail like that, if you're imagining that you're going to the big party, this is her first time going, and he's could be handling some horses, that could be sort of like an allusion to example like Cinderella. She's being taken to the ball, and the music they're playing is this old sort of like, it seemed like it's an old Hollywood crooning type of music, which was a weird choice. a weird choice, but it's very dreamy, and it's, you know, and I don't know the lyrics. I mean, I know. I'm sure you would probably, if you were watching it again, probably see more stuff. You know, I'm not a lyrics person, but it was definitely like something you would see in the old 1950s movie in terms of, you know, just some type of crooning stuff. It's most of the party. She's, you know, they're having fun. Somebody she doesn't see picks her up and twirls her around, so she's sort of being swept up by everything.
Yes.
And then towards the end of the party, it goes from the crooning music to hard rock, and then immediately it's security is around, we have to go. So I immediately just I thought definitely, like, this has elements of Cinderella. They're at the ball, having fun.
Strike midnight.
The party is over. You got to go. And so I mean, I definitely, not to say the movie, you know, I definitely like the movie a lot better than you did.
Yes, you did.
In terms of just a lot of narrative stuff that she put in there, I mean, I think it's a movie that some people should definitely study in terms of how to, you know, make the most out of something, because it's not, these aren't just like little superficial things. These are things that, you know, I think that they were well thought out. It was well crafted. And because I like old Hollywood gangster movies, because I sort of like, you know, the All About Eve setup where someone's being groomed and they hint that they want to take over that person's stuff. This hits all the hot classic Hollywood stuff with me. And then you see it with, you know, Black teenagers at a private school. And I'm just saying, you know what, there's a world where we can see and, you know, enjoy something like this. I mean, especially if it's well done, and that's the issue we have here. This movie. But
I'm with you, and it's an interesting way to cover all of those elements that you just talked about.
Yeah.
And you know, and I like and done with quality actors. I like all of them. I recognize the Paloma actress from something else that I like. The performance from Selah was intense. I already told you I like Jerome. Yeah. So
yeah, I absolutely love the cast, and honestly, you know, and again, just reminded me of Brick. If you haven't seen Brick, those of you, if you're watching it, definitely check out Brick, you know, because that's by Rian Johnson. I think this is a director, you know, who Tyresha Poe is, you know, hopefully somebody who has more movies in here. I could see this movie possibly being a calling card to a TV series, and just being my age, I'm not really, you know, I'm sorry, I'm going to put it out there. I am not going to be following the adventures of these kids in high school. It's just not, you know, being in your 50s is just, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen. I appreciated this movie for what it was, and I can honestly say I will definitely, if she works on some other movies, I will definitely, you know,
want to see her do other stuff. Yeah.
I want to see her do other stuff. Yeah. I want her to have opportunities just like Rian Johnson, you know, Rian Johnson had after Brick. I want good things to come to her. She loves stories. She's thinking out of the box in terms of certain things. And I just want to see where her career goes. I'm, you know, I don't put, you know, I
can get behind that. I can definitely get behind that. And you've made me think about it in a lot deeper way, right? And seeing all those elements that she placed in there, and even again, and then bringing it to us, all those elements that you liked about movies in a different way than you've seen before, because you haven't really seen a diverse cast perform all of these classic elements in an environment like that. You haven't, and that is, I guess, what I was poking at. It's like, well, I've seen these before and I enjoyed them. Why don't I enjoy it here? And I guess that's how I opened this, about how I felt about it. It's like, well, Jeff, why don't you enjoy it now? And I guess I can answer that. Because I did see these things in this one other movie and I enjoyed it. And I did see this in another film and I enjoyed that too. And I did see this somewhere else and I enjoyed it together too. So, yeah, I look forward to see her and doing other things. I think one day we'll do another, I don't know how, but one day we will have to do an Ang Lee a long run. We won't do it now, but even if I look at his filmography, right, it's like 3 I Love, 4 I'm never gonna go see, and 1 I hate. I mean, he's, you know, you got to say he's a great filmmaker, because he is. But I'm not gonna like everything that he does. Even some of those things that he does that have really good stuff in them. Like I said, there's a couple I'm just not gonna go see. They're not my genre. And one that I did see that was my genre, I was just like, wow, phone that one in. So yes. So therefore, what I'm saying is, yeah, I hope to see more of this director, writer, Poe, because of all the things that you said. There's a lot of talent there, and so this film hit all these elements, and you just loved them. And then I'm sure the next one will be just like Ang Lee. I'll like the next one much better, and hopefully she won't have any Ang Lee dogs, and they'll all just be Life of Pi and Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon from here on out, and no Hulks.
Oh, wait a minute. I like the Hulk. Okay.
I love Hulk. I love Hulk the character, and I kind of like the movie, but and no Gemini Man. That'll be for another review. Ang, sorry. What are we doing? What are you doing?
All right.
Paying the mortgage that week? What are we doing? The Gemini Man. So yeah.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to
one question, because I'm glad that you didn't completely give up on her. I'm glad you're at least acknowledging this talent.
I am.
Maybe sometime, consider, I know your time is precious.
Consider watching it again?
Maybe. I'm just saying.
I had to keep stopping.
I'm just saying. I'm not caping. I'm just saying, since okay. You don't need to.
Because it's your recommendation.
You know what? I'm fine with the fact that you acknowledge.
Because it's your recommendation. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it one time.
I'm gonna cut it off.
You can take care of winnings while you got them. Because we're going to do other reviews. It's going to be another show. We're going to do another show where you and me both get to go like, you picked what? That's another show. This one isn't that. This one, I'm convinced. I'm convinced. I can't wait to see her next film.
Okay. All right. I'm glad. I'm glad. I hope I wish the best. I wish her the best. And yeah, she got my attention.
So selling the Spades, both selling Spades got Claude's attention. Claude got it to get my attention. Then after this review, he's made me feel like I enjoy it more. So you might enjoy it more. You might not enjoy it completely, or you might enjoy it more because you listened to the whole review. Which either way, it works out good. That's my best homeboy Claude Faith the Air. I'm Jeff Johnson. We love film. We know you love film. So come back and listen to us talk about it again.
All right, Jeff, and yeah, it was great hanging out. We've been doing this for a while, and homeboy number one, we pound you to the side. Boom.
Elbow pound.
No, okay, elbow. Boom. Okay.